Good afternoon and welcome to our ILC lunchtime conversation going live here at the International Labour Conference at Palais des Nations in Geneva. 50 years ago, in 1976, the ILO adopted Convention 144 on tripartite consultation. The rationale was that fundamental notion that you cannot solve labor challenges without all their voices in the same room. Governments, employers, workers speaking, listening, and finding common ground. Today, 87% of countries have some form of national social dialogue institution, which is a big plus. That's one of the prime legacies of Convention 144. 50 years on, the question is more pertinent than ever. We have a world shaped by digital transformation, climate pressures, demographic shifts, and geopolitical tensions. So is tripartite consultation still relevant, is the question for today. That's what we're going to explore right here, right now. And to guide this conversation, I'm very pleased to welcome Her Excellency, Mrs. Emma Hippolyte, Minister for Equity, Social Justice, Gender, Older Persons, Labor, Cooperatives, and Consumer Affairs of St. Lucia. Welcome. We have also Ambassador Michele Cervone d'Urso, representing the European Union delegation here. Welcome. Mr. Ulan Tazhibayev, advisor to the chairman of the Presidium of the National Confederation of Employers of Kazakhstan. Welcome. And Mr. Omar Faruk Osman, General Secretary of the Federation of Somali Trade Unions, FESTU. Welcome. Welcome to all four of you. This is how it's going to work. First, we're going to talk about real national and regional perspective. What does tripartite consultations actually do? Where has it worked? Then we're going to look how Convention 144 is still relevant in the changing world of work. I mentioned digital transition, but we also have green jobs, emerging labor market challenges. So can social dialogue institutions meet these challenges? Finally, we'll wrap up with key reflection and takeaways. This conversation is being broadcast live and will become part of the ILO Future of Work podcast series. So whether you're here watching or listening later, your voices matter. At the end, we'll obviously take questions. Let me start with a straightforward question, and we need concrete example here. Minister Hippolyte, St. Lucia has just ratified Convention 144. Why? What changed your government thinking? And what do you hope this convention will actually do for your country?
First, let me start by thanking the ILO for giving St. Lucia the opportunity to participate in this very important conversation as it relates to tripartite conversation. We in St. Lucia sees the whole issue of social dialogue as key to national development. It is a strategy that we have embraced, and within our government, the whole agenda of putting people first aligns with that whole conversation. Why have we ratified Convention 144 now? Maybe I'll start by giving a little brief history about where we were and where we are now. In the 80s, St. Lucia's economy was based on agriculture. Especially bananas had been exported to the UK. In the 90s, this changed because of a challenge at the WTO by the government of the United States of America. This impacted us greatly. So from the 1990s, we moved from an economy based on agriculture to one based on services. And at present, we have 85% of our GDP coming from services, with 65% coming from tourism. So this impacted the whole issue of our labor market. And it was because of that complexity that we felt we needed to put structure in our conversation with both the employers and the workers' representative. We were having conversations before, but by ratifying the convention, we felt it was so important that we were getting the support of the ILO to do so. And more than anything else as well, we took that opportunity in April to ratify the convention, as well as establishing our first National Tripartite Advisory Committee.
Now, what happens when you disagree? What do you actually find common ground in that moment?
Well, you have a typical example now. There is a discussion in committee for the transition. And the key thing is, if you have an innate understanding of the work that you do, for us in St. Lucia, our focus is people first. Government understands that, the union understands that, and the employers understand that. So we sit at the table and we put the people first. As long as we put the people first, we will sit, we will discuss, we will negotiate, and we do what you have, a give and take, and we will arrive at consensus.
So I guess that's a key point, I guess, isn't it? How do you move from consultation to consensus? Okay. In your case in Kazakhstan, Ulan, Tazhibayev, from your perspective, what's the practical value to employers of engaging in tripartite consultation under Convention 144?
Yes, thank you for the question. And first of all, congratulations. It's a very big decision and very useful. And we actually seen the use of consultations of this three-party dialogue. It's a very crystal clear benefits for the employers. First of all, you can see the first effect is that you can participate in decision making about regulation in an early stage. And this increases predictability for business drastically. Second is you can affect those decisions to make your decisions better. But the most important, I think, is within this mechanism, you build a good trust relations between three parties, and that makes you more prepared for any challenges that you may face. And this crystal clear benefit is clear for all three parties in Kazakhstan. And I think we're doing a very good progress in even deepening this.
So you've made the case that tripartite dialogue is good for business. Okay. So, but let me ask you, if dialogue shows a slowdown in decision making, let's say in a crisis situation, for instance, a pandemic or an economic shock, does tripartite consultation still work?
Absolutely. And we actually have seen the cases when the unilateral decisions, they are made faster, but they are not necessarily good. And sometimes you have to revisit them. And actually, dialogue is not a slowing down. This depends on the quality of your dialogue. And if you have a very good quality dialogue, you make a proper decision with less negative consequences, and you win after all. So the main goal is to reach to the point where when you don't spend much time on talking, but you have the level of trust that makes your dialogue very, very fast and effective.
Okay, so that's a crucial question. Can social dialogue institution move at the speed of crisis? I'm coming to you, Omar, Faruk. I want your perspective from a worker's experience. What's the actual difference that Convention 144 makes on the ground? If you can show me a concrete win, that would be perfect.
Thank you very much. This is a very important discussion, and especially in our own context, as a country that came from civil war and crisis. Accepting and welcoming social dialogue was a very difficult journey. And especially appreciating the role of social partners, trade unionists and employers as an active agencies of socio-economic was a difficult one, where people would not appreciate in government, the transitional governments in our country would not see trade unionists as an important actor. And we have had that history where we said We do not want to be spectators in the labor market, in the socio-economic, issues, but an active decision maker that sits at the table. And we have unique history where we have faced 11 years of egregious human and labor rights repression in our country that lasted for 11 years. So with the help of the ILO that has mediated the discussions, in the year 2019, we came to the table, the government, the trade unions and employers, and that is the first time that we have agreed for social dialogue to start. That was 2019. And as trade unionists, one of the things we have been demanding was the ratification of the ILO Convention 144. And our government was resisting then. And then we said, okay, look, it's give and take. Social dialogue is not something to be afraid of. Trade unionists and employers are partners in progress. We can have discussions. So when 2019 officially social dialogue was institutionalized in Somalia, and that is the formation of the Somali National Tripartite Consultative Council, where we have 3 members, employers have 3 members, and the government has 5 members. Then we discuss it, how we can institutionalize and inculcate social dialogue. And one of the key issues that we as trade unionists championed was the ratification and the domestication of ILO Convention 144. And we are very happy that 2 years after the social dialogue was institutionalized, we agreed as a tripartite the ratification of 144, and it was ratified after 2 years. And now, last year, it was officially domesticated in our new labor law.
So these are very concrete wins. Thank you. Let me ask you, what's the difference between a genuine, influential social dialogue and some consultation process? Where do you see the difference?
We always say genuine social dialogue is the right thing. Honorable Minister said people at the forefront. And for us, in our case in Somalia, we say people-centered social dialogue. You need to take your selfies with the people. People must be with you. So the genuine social dialogue is very important. And the difference between genuine social dialogue and performative is the influence. For example, in our case in Somalia, what we said was, we do not want a fictional social dialogue just to tick the empty boxes, to say we had a meeting of the employers and trade unionists for that date and we discussed that when decisions were already made. When the government wants to present the decisions to us, we said nothing about us without us. If you want to talk about us, the labor market, the key actors are the employers and the workers, so share the decisions. We are decision makers at the table and not ticking empty boxes. So the difference between performative and genuine social dialogue is the influence. If the employers and the workers can bring their legitimate voice at the table to discuss, it's even good for the government. It makes even our government is beautiful in the eyes of the international community, because it shows that our government is embracing democracy in labor relations.
Very good. So we just heard the tripartite constituents. The European Union has embedded social dialogue into trade agreements and sustainability frameworks. Ambassador Cervone d'Urso, from the EU's vantage point, watching countries ratify Convention 144, watching them build the mechanism, what have you seen working and what is still broken? What should be improved?
Yeah, first of all, really warm congratulations to St. Lucia that you really joined, and I think it's an honor to speak up to you, Minister. And I had the honor also of following the pathway of Somalia, a country in full transition, so that's great and important. I want to speak a little bit about the experience, but to answer your question, I think, and we heard also from the speakers just now, it's important that we have sort of a structured process that's significant. The principles undermining the convention are key. Effective social dialogue depends on 1, legitimacy, 2, independence, and 3, the representation value of the of the employers and the workers, which we've heard actually just now. This is why I think ratification is important, and the EU, I'll come back in a second, is taking a number of steps in terms of ratification. In terms of what we are doing to make it happen, it's, I mean, we have actually, social dialogue is enshrined in our treaties. It's very much in our DNA. Article 154 of the Treaty of the European Union provides for consultation with European social partners. I mean, we have a very complex set of dialogues taking place, 44 sectoral dialogue committees, which consist of 65 European Employers Association, 15 European trade union federations. I mean, some of the issues that we're closely looking at the moment in terms of jobs also is the quality of the jobs. We have a quality roadmap, also a directive of adequate. We have a specific directive of adequate minimum wages. In terms of the challenges which you asked, and I think it's relevant for the ongoing ILC, how are we adapting to new technology, to AI? There's a report now being presented also at I see that as one of the key challenges. And, you know, I think there we're looking of having it's important to have an approach which is ethical, integrated, and inclusive. It's, I think, essential. A human-centered approach promoting decent work is for us essential.
Okay, thank you, Ambassador. So what I'm hearing from the first round of questions and answers is that Convention 144 works best when all three constituents are genuinely empowered. That tripartite consultation needs to be institutionalized, that speed matters, that consultation can't paralyze the crisis response, and that evidence or impact matters. You know, workers and employers need to see that the dialogue is actually changing the outcomes. So those are the practical lessons from 50 years of Convention 144. Now let's look ahead. And we're living in a moment where the world is into a massive transformation. And the question is, how can Convention 144 help us cross 2026 and beyond? And Omar, let me go back to you again here. In this context of digital and green transition, what new forms of social dialogue do workers need?
Yeah, social dialogue is needed more than ever now. Why? Because the nature of the world of work has changed and continues to change. A lot of dynamics are coming. An effective social dialogue requires anticipatory participation instead of reaction, because that is what helps us in shaping in the labor market. In our own context, Somalia, one of the things we feel social dialogue and 144 is needed is the way we use it not only to address issues in the labor market, but equally in resolving conflicts and crises in our country, where we say tripartite plus. Michele is here, who has been involved in the peace processes in Somalia. And one of the issues that we said, it is not only the government, employers, and the trade unions meeting, it's also the clan chiefs, the community leaders, the civil society. So that spirit of tripartite plus, we were using social dialogue. So it's not only something confined to only labor relations, but something go beyond the labor relations in promoting peace, stability, and the transition to democracy. So, and in this particular context, when we talk about green economy, when we talk about just transition, the key to it is social dialogue, because we have to agree. Because the nature of work is changing. And we do not want the workers, for example, to be called when the decision has been made to change the nature of work. No, we want it to be at the table, at the get-go, and be discussing and saying, no, this is the changing of the nature of work. And that is, I can give you another good example, that on the case of just transition, Somalia has become the first country in Africa that enshrined just transition in law. We have just transition and green economy in our national transformation plan, in NTP. And we have it in national policy on just transition. And all this, across the board, we have used social dialogue to engage our interlocutors in the government and our interlocutors in the employers sector. So that's why we are saying that even when we agree that just transition green economy has to be politically, programmatically, and legal-wise be inculcated in our country, its implementation must also be accompanied by social dialogue. And that is when Convention 144 is very key in realizing in our own context.
Ulan from Kazakhstan, Employers Kazakhstan. So what does effective social dialogue look like when you're managing digital platform, regulation, green job creation, labor market disruption at the same time, all this at the same time?
Yeah, it's a good question. And actually, I think we are already facing these challenges. We are at the stage when we are facing these new trends. Everything is changing very rapidly. And the stakes are higher. So you make a decision, you face the consequences very fast. You cannot just wait and try to analyze something in the past. You analyze something in the future. So I think the importance of dialogue is raised up to the sky. And for example, for us in Kazakhstan, we had a luxury. We have over 25 years of being in Convention 144. So we had institutionalized everything. I mean, this is due to, and thanks to the government, which is very, like say, responsible for the decisions they make internationally, first of all. So implementation was formally done at the place, then started to build up some trust, build up some understanding of the process. And now I think Dialogue 3.0 is in Kazakhstan, and we are trying and having in mind things that you asked for. I mean, the current trends and very rapidly changing world. We're trying to even make the dialogue even early stages. So, for example, before the three-party committee, we will have a working group of 3 parties. They have a luxury of not doing the policy, and they have a luxury of discussing things before the positions are polarized on 3 parties. So improving the quality. So what we are trying to find is like fast response for changing world, making decision better, and building up trust to the point when you don't need much time to get to the proper decision.
Ambassador Cervone Durso from the EU, you touched upon the subject a little bit earlier. You mentioned AI and so on. So what role does Convention 144 play, or should it play, in EU governance in this environment?
No, it plays a huge role, both, let's say, domestically within the EU, but also externally. I mean, domestically, the European Commission and basically all our European cross-industry social partners are implementing what we call a new pact for social dialogue, which establishes a framework for concrete actions, some I already alluded before, taken by the Commission, and it strengthens very much social dialogue and promotes very much stronger consultation amongst parties. I mean, for us, it's pretty key that we have an institutional structured process that, like was mentioned, I mean, that enhances legitimacy, independence, and the representation of the organizations. I think also the point of Omar is also of inclusivity is also very important also for us. I mean, all groups have to be involved. It's pretty essential. And we try to translate this externally. Externally, I would also like to mention, because it's linked, there's also a challenge of ratification of fundamental ILO conventions, C87 and C98. And we're trying to link this to our trade agreements, what we call GSP Plus, Generalized System of Preferences Plus, to make sure also that to encourage our partners to ratify and to take forward important international labor and human rights conventions.
Thank you. Minister Hippolyte, as a government that just ratified Convention 144, how are you going to apply it in the context of those massive transition that we just mentioned? Congratulations as well, though.
Thank you, and I also want to take this moment to congratulate the ILO on this 50th anniversary. You asked the key question, how are we going to apply it? I looked on the board, and the Director General, one of his quotes says, "The future of work will not be determined by technology alone, but by the policies, institutions, and social dialogue that guide it." And that is what St. Lucia has embraced. That is why we ratified 144. That is why we spend quite a bit of time trying to strengthen the ministry responsible for labor. Now, when you look at what is happening in terms of the economy, you've raised quite a few issues that's impacting us in the future of work. You mentioned AI. We are discussing here the platform economy. We have the whole issue of the green issue of climate change. These issues must be discussed openly by our government. And at the table, the committee that is there to advise us, we need to sit, we need to develop policies, we need to advise our cabinet, and then we make decisions. We almost anticipate. But in doing so, they would be coming to the table with the position of their stakeholders. So the employers would be discussing this, the employer rep at the table would be discussing this with the Chamber of Commerce and all the employers, members of the Employers Federation. The worker representatives would be discussing the subject with all the trade union members and so on. And as well, when you look at especially the whole issue of AI and the platform economy, our young people, we must not keep them out of that equation. And in St. Lucia, we've taken the bold step in terms, we noticed there was a gap in the area of finance, and we have what we call the Youth Economy Agency. And what it does, it allows us to focus on where the future of work is, engage our young people. We have the National Youth Council as well, so that they influence that final decision as to how the government, yeah.
Thank you, Minister. So let me try to sum up a little bit of what we heard now. In 50 years, Convention 144 has established one powerful principle, and that principle is that governments, employers, and workers must consult together on labor and social policy. But in today's world, tripartite consultation is no longer optional. Okay, it's more necessary than ever. I think we all agree here. And Convention 144 turns 50 this year, but actually the real work starts now. So I would like to thank the panelists for all their contribution, their insight. This is authentic, challenging conversation. Thank you everyone for watching and listening. We hope you will see you again for more conversation on these key issues shaping the world of work. Don't forget to follow the ILO on social media for updates and insights. Twitter and X at ILO, Facebook at International Labour Organization. We have LinkedIn, International Labour Organization, Instagram at ILO_org, and YouTube, ILO TV. Until next time, take care, and goodbye from all of us at the ILO.